Hello friends, welcome to Read With Me. We are continuing our fall book series with a book called Apples to Oregon, being the slightly true narrative of how a brave pioneer father brought apples, peaches, pears, plums, grapes, and cherries, and children across the plains. I am really excited about this book because I just got it, and I really liked it, and I wanted to share it with you all, because it is a fun story about how a family went westward with their fruit trees. My daddy loved growing apples, and when he got ready to pull up roots and leave Iowa for Oregon, he couldn't bear to leave his apple trees behind. So Daddy built two of the biggest boxes you could ever hope to see. He set them onto a sturdy wagon and shoveled in good, wormy dirt. Then he filled every inch with little plants and trees, hundreds of them. Daddy was ready for the most daring adventure in the history of fruit. And look, here she is helping him make his boxes. "Apples, ho!" he cried. Along with apples, my daddy took peaches, pears, plums, grapes, and cherries. He's taking all kinds of fruit. Oh, and by the way, he took us along too. Look, she's running to catch in. All of her brothers and sisters are in a little wagon behind the big one. We all had lots to do on the journey. Each morning I helped Mama bake biscuits while Daddy prepared for another long day on the trail. At night, Mama and I tucked in the little ones. Then Daddy fiddled lullabies under the stars. Why, I can still hear him crooning to the gravesteins. "Hush, little babies, don't you cry. Mama's gonna bake you an apple pie. If that apple pie ain't sweet, Daddy's gonna munch you for his own special treat." Look, here's their daddy. And look at all of their toes underneath the wagon. They're sleeping under the wagon. We rolled along just fine till we came to the Platte River. It was wider than Texas, thicker than Mama's muskrat stew, and muddier than a cowboy's toenails. Just looking at it made my inside shrivel, because she's wondering how they're going to cross it with their big wagon. The riverbank was crowded with folks and prairie schooners trying to get up the nerve to cross. When they saw us and all our little fruit trees fluttering in the breeze, they burst out laughing. "Those leaves will be brown as dirt before you hit the plains," declared one old geezer. "Plains?" scoffed someone else. "That nursery wagon won't make it halfway across the river." They don't think they can do it. Do you think they can do it? I think they can. I think they're a determined little family. But Daddy didn't let their talk worry him. He just looked me square in the eye and said, "Delicious, I'm going to need your help." Right then and there, we built a raft for his tiny trees. Then Daddy loaded me and my little sisters and brothers onto the edges. "Now make sure my precious plants don't topple into the water," Daddy warned. Look, they're going to try to go across on this raft. Well, we hadn't gone far when that muddy drink started to pull us down. "The peaches are plummeting!" my sister shouted. "The plums are plunging!" boomed my brothers. "Don't let my babies go belly up!" howled Daddy. Look, Daddy's swimming behind. How are they going to get across? I had to think quick. "We're too heavy. If we don't go faster, we'll sink. We got to take our shoes off and kick." And so we kicked. Of course, we'd all been raised on apples, and everyone knows young'uns raised on apples are strong and mighty. Before you could say Johnny Appleseed, we kicked ourselves clear to the other shore. Look, they're all working together, kicking to save the plants. But no sooner had we got every last tree loaded back in the wagon than I spied a foul-looking bunch of clouds stomping round the sun, just fit to be tied. Now she sees a storm. They've no sooner made it across the river than a storm is starting. The wind began to throw around everything that wasn't lashed down. Our boots, baby Albert's diapers, every pot and pan Mama had, even our own little wagon. Next, hailstones big as plums came hurtling out of the sky. "Guard the grapes! Protect the peaches!" Daddy howled. So we all started tearing off our clothes and holding them over. Daddy's darlings, bonnets, petticoats, trousers, hats, even Daddy's drawers. Look, they're getting blown in the wind. And look at the baby. And Mom is after her pots. She can't lose her pots. And Daddy doesn't want to lose his fruit plants. Phew! At last the storm passed and Daddy's dainties were safe, but look, they're all barefooted. They have to walk without shoes. After all that excitement, it felt good to hit the trail again, but before long we came to an endless sandy desert. Now remember, us young'uns didn't have our wagon or our boots. In no time our feet were redder than the poison apple the old witch gave to Snow White. "Delicious, this is our toughest challenge," said Daddy, wiping his brow as I followed him on tippy toes. "We got to find a water hole, or my babies are done for." He has to get the plants a drink. Sure enough, by noon the fruit trees began to droop. By 3, their itty-bitty tender leaves were getting crispy. By nightfall, Daddy was crying. A handful of dead branches pressed against his heart. Look, he's upset he's losing his fruit trees. I couldn't bear to see my Daddy suffer, so early next morning I took off to look for water. But although I searched and searched, I couldn't even find a little splash or a puddle. After a while I got so tuckered out I plopped down under an old sagebrush. Look, she's trying to help her dad, because she knows he does not want to lose his precious fruit. "Ouch!" I yelled, landing on something hard. But when I saw what it was, I whooped for joy. My very own boot. What's more, it still had some water in it from all those melted hailstones. That was our lucky day. Let me tell you, we found every one of Mama's pots and pans spread out across the sand. They all had a few drops of water in them, too, just enough to get Daddy's trees to the next water hole before they keeled over. That was definitely lucky. My, that first sip of water sure tasted good, even if I did have to wait my turn behind some Baldwin apples. Oh, and I'm pleased to say our wagon and all the boots turned up too. All except one. Look, it was her boot. She's missing one shoe. I reckon that nasty wind blew my left boot clear to the other side of the moon. And if it should happen to drop out of the sky on your head one of these days, I'd sure appreciate you sending it along to me. Do you think that will happen? No. Oh my, look, they're at the top of a mountain. Well, we kept on going past Courthouse Rock and Chimney Rock and Independence Rock and lots of other rocks that didn't have names. We climbed up rocks and down rocks, and at last we reached the Columbia River. "Just 100 miles to go," declared Daddy. So they've almost completed their journey. But time was running out. Our little trees had almost drowned in the river, got pounded by hailstones, and got withered by drought. How much more could they take? And now we were set for a showdown with the most ornery varmint of all, Jack Frost. Oh, I'd already spied him sneaking around our campsite, brushing the cottonwoods with his cold, white tongue. But I wasn't about to let him get close to my Daddy's apples. So that night I made a big fire and sat by it, waiting for Jack Frost to show himself. Sure enough, as soon as the moon came up, I spotted that old good-for-nothing slinking across the meadow, heading straight for the Sweet Junes. Do you think she's going to beat Jack Frost? I have a feeling. She's a pretty tough character. I got ready to fight. Jack Frost came at me, turning the ground so cold my toes went numb. But I didn't give up. I grabbed a flaming stick and threw it right at him. Before you could say Peter Piper picked a peck of pretty pippins, that low-down scoundrel was hightailing it out of there, heading straight for Walla Walla, Washington. "I'm mighty grateful, Delicious," said Daddy as he scrutinized the sweeties the next morning. "Thanks to you, even the sweets stayed snug." "We were nice and cozy, too," added Mama, checking on the children. Look how brave she was. And look at everybody under the wagon. Sure enough, all Daddy's trees survived, just as if they'd come across the plains in a swanky carriage. We floated them on boats down the mighty Columbia to a pretty place near Portland. Then we planted them in that sweet Oregon dirt at last. Look at all the plants. And she helped her daddy plant them. Gold was discovered in California not long after, and thousands of people rushed there to seek their fortunes. Look at all the feet. I think those are her brothers and sisters in the apple trees. But not us. We already had our fortune. Those apples, peaches, pears, plums, grapes, and cherries made us richer than any prospector. We were happier, too. After all, apples taste a whole lot better than gold. Look, there's Delicious up in the tree. As for my daddy, he was always as sweet as a peach. He and Mama lived happily to a ripe old age. Daddy never forgot my brave deeds on the trail. Why, as soon as he sold his first bushel of apples, he bought me the prettiest pair of boots you ever saw. Delicious, said Daddy, you'll always be the apple of my eye. I hope you enjoyed this sweet, fun story of Delicious, the little girl helping her father carry the apples across the United States. Please consider liking this video and subscribing. And if you have already subscribed, I really appreciate it. Until next time.